This story took place in 1989 on a remote stretch of highway between two small towns in Pennsylvania. Route 741 was a late-night bus run that operated daily. Its driver, Jacob Holden, considered it just another routine trip. After 10 years on the job, he knew the route like the back of his hand. That night, there were 18 passengers on board, college students heading home, workers returning from shifts, and a young mother with her child. The journey started uneventfully. The road was quiet, shrouded in darkness, with only the bus's headlights cutting through the night. Jacob settled into his seat, listening to the crackle of the radio. Everything seemed normal until the bus entered the forested section of the highway. First, the radio cut out, replaced by static. Then, a strange hum echoed through the speakers, low, metallic, and unnerving. Jacob assumed it was just interference. But then the headlights began flickering. A thick fog rolled in suddenly, blanketing the road. It was unusual. The weather had been clear all evening. Jacob slowed the bus as visibility dropped to almost nothing. Suddenly, the engine sputtered and died, leaving the vehicle stranded in the middle of the desolate road. Jacob tried to restart the bus, but the engine wouldn't turn over. The passengers began to stir, sensing something was wrong. A young woman claimed she saw a shadow move in the fog, while others whispered about hearing faint footsteps outside. The tension rose when a piercing metallic sound echoed from the surrounding woods. It repeated every few seconds like the ringing of an old iron bell. A few passengers wanted to leave the bus, but most were too scared to move. Jacob decided to step out and check the engine despite the passengers pleading with him to stay inside. He grabbed a flashlight and opened the door. The air was icy and unnaturally still. As he inspected the engine, nothing seemed mechanically wrong, yet the feeling of being watched was overwhelming. Jacob quickly climbed back into the bus, locking the door behind him. Inside, the atmosphere had grown more tense. A young woman in the back sobbed quietly, clutching her bag while the mother tried to comfort her crying child. Jacob sat in the driver's seat and tried the ignition again. This time the engine roared to life. Relief spread through the bus as he put it in gear and started moving, but something was off. The forest stretched on endlessly, with no familiar landmarks in sight. Jacob knew the stretch of road was only about a mile long, but they had been driving for nearly 10 minutes. Anxiety grew as the bus seemed trapped in an endless loop. The bus came to a sudden stop as Jacob slammed on the brakes. There was something in the road, a figure standing in the fog. It was motionless, too far to make out any details. Jacob turned the high beams on, but the figure vanished. Only the dense fog remained. The passengers were on edge, debating whether to stay on the bus or try walking back to safety. Ultimately, a group decided to leave. Convinced the road ahead was leading nowhere, Jacob reluctantly agreed to join them. They set off in a group, walking along the highway in the direction they had come from. After about 30 minutes, they realized something was very wrong. No matter how far they walked, there was no sign of the clearing they had passed earlier. It was as if the road had swallowed them. Panic began to set in, and that was when the metallic ringing returned, closer this time. It came from the woods, echoing eerily. People began to scatter in fear, running in different directions. Despite Jacob's desperate attempts to keep everyone together, 2 days later, rescuers found the bus abandoned in the exact spot it had broken down. Inside, all the passengers' belongings were left untouched, wallets, bags, even a child's toy, but there wasn't a single person in sight. Jacob was found a week later, miles away from the bus. He was barefoot, disheveled, and barely coherent. He couldn't recall much of what happened except for one chilling detail. They came out of the fog, he kept saying. They told me to run and not look back. No trace of the other passengers was ever found. Investigators closed the case, blaming the disappearances on a combination of misfortune and disorientation in the dense forest. The section of highway was later shut down due to frequent accidents, but locals still tell the story of Route 741. They say if you walk that road at night, you might hear the faint hum of an engine or see headlights cutting through the fog, and if you listen closely, you might hear the metallic ringing growing louder as something unseen draws nearer. Thank you for watching this story. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss any new creepy legends and mystical tales. There's a lot more to come, so stay tuned and be ready for more encounters with the unknown. Look out for the next story.